Okay, welcome. I am doing a quick, it's more of like a general guideline, considering that pen modding is very subjective. I mean, anything art or creative is like very subjective, right? But this is like a generalist guideline of like what is like aesthetics. This takes entirely all of how well a mod spins, and how cleanly it's made, right? Those aspects won't be covered in this. I don't think I'll ever probably cover anything that's like cleanliness. It's pretty straightforward. um but I had talked about it in the Discord, and I would like to show a few extra examples for other mods in this video, more specifically, notably that in my Discord explanation, I basically explained all of it, but I didn't give other mod examples. But yeah, so since I'm trying to do this in one take, let's just jump right into it. Um, so one of the mods that would stand out would be one of these. If you look at the body already has some white text on it, right? And then there's white rings to as like kind of like an accent, or like a small detail, right? And if you notice how the white slowly grows more, it takes up more space in the pen mod. Now these purple rings kind of, essentially, they're also an accent. They've become an accent now, whereas like here was a white ring, right? And this purple ring matches the body, right? So that's one of the small aesthetics, are very, can be very subtle, or they can be very like really loud, like very like right in front of your face, and stuff like that would be, I'll have examples in that later. But if you notice how once it starts to fade out, there's also some texture on to the grips of the white G2s here using the air blocks. Like you can see the rings there. One of the counter examples I had was, well, if it's subtle, then like if I don't know how to apply aesthetics to a pen mod, like it sounds pretty easy. So you're telling me I can just add metal rings here, there, or whatever, and that could be an aesthetic. So in theory, yes and no. If you're practicing it, like, and you don't understand it, I guess you could randomly try to toss them on, but like, you don't want to like throw them on like wherever you want. You should throw them on strategically. Like in theory, I could say like we could, or someone could ask like, well, what's wrong with putting a purple ring here, right? While there's nothing wrong with that at the core concept, it, that's the piece that becomes a personal preference thing, right? Would it look good? It could look good, but you have to take into account for how long or how thick is the block of like purple ring, right? Um, how small should it be? If it's too big, like when you're spinning it, or when you're spinning it, there's a spinning effect, right? And when you're taking a picture of it, it's still. So does that look like it flows well, like in like for like if you're just looking at it, right? And it's a little bit hard to describe in terms of like how everyone sees, like, because everyone has a different perspective on how smooth something flows. But this is more of the ones that don't have like, it's like screaming in front of your face as the aesthetics. And the only piece that might be screaming in front of you for aesthetics is like the that will catch your eye likely right away is this gem, right? And notice that it's a purple gem and it still fits into the theme, but it's not overbearing. Like while you do notice it immediately, it's not a very overbearing like, well, this is all I like notice about this mod, like that's your focal point. Whereas like once you start looking at the entire mod, like in a big picture sense, like it's not very overwhelming, right? So that's the general aesthetics guideline and like how to balance it. Um, so there's that, and then I wanted to very more specifically present other mods. Uh, so if you're very worried about, or like really want to like know the fundamentals before you like start deciding to break the rules, it can be done very simply. Like if there's two gold stripes, if or like I shouldn't say these are stripes, but let's say these are stripes, right? So the bottom or not the tip and then the middle, is that really a middle piece? The 1/4 section of where this gold section is, right? If all you did was just replicate that on the opposite side, it looks very balanced, right? It there's not no less of the asymmetric presentation, and it'll just flow easier. This isn't necessarily like symmetrical, but notice like it's somewhat following that rule where it's like it's there's one like right towards above the body, and then there's one towards as close to the end as physically possible. Obviously, this wasn't the greatest mod to like balance it, but notice that there's some yellowing on the body, and purple is like it's already like being consumed by the rest of the design, and the black is like it's a solid color. I don't know how to just necessarily describe it, but like there's definitely a flowable theme if you like look at it from if you look at it from a focal point from like from the tip all the way to the cap. Like there's like a color flow going into it, right? It looks very metallic, um, but it doesn't take away from the middle being purple, right? Um, it's also could be subjective. Some people might hate how this pen mod looks, and that's the name of the game, unfortunately. One of the other examples. So this is a pen by Anonymous. If you this is one of the better examples of like if you don't know how to create aesthetics, it's there's some white space. He filled it in with like some stuff to fit the other color, which would be pink in this scenario. Could he have added like some other small designs using like a tape cut or something? He doesn't have to. In fact, you probably don't need to at all in any way, shape, or form. And if you look at the black mod, he's using just simple metal rings, like two in the middle, one on each side at the ends. It has its spinning effect. That's a very fundamental based way for like to brew aesthetics. Same with this mod. You notice the pink in as the middle piece for like its color aesthetic. He could have pushed this further down, so there's less of this pastel dark blue, kind of holding the spacing. Because if you look at this is like a pretty good space that's taking over as like it's color based, right? There's not a whole lot of pastel blue taking over. In theory, he could have like pushed the grip down slightly further, and that would work as well. There's nothing. It's just a preference. There's nothing wrong with this mod at all. If I were to be told to add suggestions, like he could have pushed the grip further down, so like maybe the spacing is less of like it looks like it's just one big block of like something. There is some pastel blue, but it's like really like faded out already. So that pushing it down, it seems like it takes less space in its appearance. And if there were more, he could cut down one pink ring. If there were more of a pastel blue in this mod, we'll try to start rapid firing most of these as well. This is like fairly simple. In fact, this is one of the better ones. It has like some texture on top of it for like that you can feel within like your eyes without having to like touch the mod, right? Like you can feel the texture of this like pink grip right here, and it adds some depth to the mod. So that's some aesthetics, and then it has its metal ring, which is done like very nicely here. It's just an overall like on a basic level, it's a very well spaced out pen mod when it comes to the color spacing. If this was just one big blob of white, it would just be like any other KT, right? It just wouldn't stand out. And then same with this here. It just has green running throughout it, and it's got some crazy colors, right? And the crazy colors match with the red rings that they're trying to enable that to fade out, but the green caps still match this green grip here, right? and some small aesthetics. It's got like a metal ring to match the tip. So you see how like they're very symmetrical eventually somewhere along the lines of the spacing of like the mod, right? Vortex, actually, one of his famous mods like Menotex, this is also done very well. It's got black body that's textured, and it's kind of like this blue color that's just like jumps out, and it fades away very quickly with some metal rings, and then there's like a blue tech ring right there, right? So aesthetics like this would be classified as one that kind of jumps out because like this there's this color and then it just stops, right? Those would be classified as ones that more scream at you, but there's a lot of texture and depth that like this would likely, at least in my opinion, it likely would catch your eye, right? This is another one. This is Coffee's personal BT, his charcoal latte. Notice that I could have probably used one metal ring towards like the middle piece, but I made sure I actually picked like a darker metal ring. It might be hard to visually like see. Is this metal ring like really necessary? Probably not, but I made sure to like balance it back out with an extra one in case. Is this one likely subjective? Probably, yeah. It's got some crazy colors with the gems on it. So this is more of a subjective example. Like, not everyone is going to like this style, right? But are there aesthetics pieces put into place rather than it's just a black and red mod? Like I could take out the rings and there's no gems, and then someone would just add tech rings, and then the silver metal piece right here could have been black, and like that's a perfectly fine mod, but it doesn't necessarily look much more different than another mod that is another charcoal latte, right? Whereas this one is like it's exactly like what I just described. Instead, to add a very quick accent, Vortex added like a white ring right here. This is like one of the more high level mods that like jump right out in front of you. Like this is the main focal point, which is the body. And notice that there's gold right here, and he bounces it back out with one small gold ring, so like it looks and it flows like with the right symmetrical thing. I do kind of now that I've gotten to this part of explaining on the mod. There's a very funny scientific thing that I'd like to quickly like go over. Is that if you're making something symmetrical, um, there's always been a scientific thing about like how attractiveness works. Most people aren't born like 100% like symmetrical, right? But there's a statistic that shows like people who have symmetry tend to be more attractive. And if you notice, like there's like symmetry across the board for like majority of these mods, right? So the question might be like, well then like why do all SCs like look good? Like is there a bad looking SC that's not a beginner looking SC? Um, when it comes to SCs, it comes down to the very topic that like it's very community driven in the sense that like we could only talk about this in a pen scale, as it's also my expertise on that to not take away from the attractiveness scientific research piece. But the sole piece that like when we've always made pens, there's the aesthetic of like it's always been asymmetrical because like that's just how a pen looks, right? And when people tend to make SCs, we've already indirectly tried to replicate it look like a natural pen in a certain way. And every SC kind of breathes its own life, is what I like to describe it. It's supposed to be about the person, not about that it looks like a pen. Um, like I mentioned it in Discord. Like I dare someone like find a set of SC mods that look ugly, that are not beginner made, and don't have any ties to the person who created it at all. Like it's almost very difficult to find if you look at the history of like just looking at an MX. Like it's and if you even look at an MX, like it's pretty symmetrical. You have the long HEG grip, and then the RSVP grip with the black back plug, like that flows. It has its like own piece, like it has its own like color symmetry. It doesn't have to necessarily be the pen itself is symmetrical, right? So this is like another one that jumps out. It's got a lot of gold. Any metallic colors tend to be one of the aesthetic themes that like are trying to like it's really being really loud. So this would be one that stands out, and Vortex did a really good job with adding some gold aesthetics in the body to incorporate like it's jumping out a lot at you, and by having this like slightly duller gold in the middle, it like softens like how loud it is, but still has that like very sharp aesthetic to it. And then for this one, this is entirely black mod, with some silver pieces. So like there's the tip, and then there's that metal ring right there. And what color goes well with black? Red, right? It's very common color theme. I just added some red gems on there, and like it's almost like this crowning like jewel esque like aesthetic, right? Or it's not overwhelming and it's not overbearing, but like there's some personality into it. Like that's the aesthetic piece into it, right? This is somewhat similar. I could have not added a gold metal ring, like not have chose to figure out something very difficult, but I did, and I added a metal ring because it would flow better for throughout, and then this enables me to be able to add another gold metal ring here as well. But the main focal point is like there's so much red here that adding a gold piece would just make it look nice. So that's the piece. Same with here. There's so much purple that's so bulky that adding these black strips, like this is like someone else's mod. It's Saku Ballstein, but like you can see the spacing here. This is more some like themed aesthetics. So adding sakura flowers onto the empty space for the white CT caps there, just to quickly fire through. And then for an SC, like I wanted to put this as the last example, is like the metallic blue insert flows throughout the whole mod. I actually did change this at one point where I changed it to a metallic RSVP sunburst metallic grip here, just so it flows even better. So this is a very old picture. That was one of the pieces that bothered me. Yeah, there's that symmetry that I was like talking about. This is probably isn't necessarily like the most how would I describe it? The most aesthetic thing that like everyone would want to make necessarily, right? But you notice this like purple tint that flows throughout the whole thing, and the difficulty is like yes, it was very difficult to find every like pieces to be fully purple tinted, but there's that flow of like that metallic blueness on the inner piece of like the whole mod, knowing that it's like a clear mod, right? And I just try to balance it as much as I can. There's two white pieces there. There's so my one of my worries was that oh, there's a silver ring there that's like printed onto the body. Like how can I balance this? I basically like just followed really fundamental things. I put a metal ring inside of there that happened to fit, and that's kind of how I did it. But yeah, that's some general guidance on aesthetics. It's something to take with a grain of salt in a certain sense, but if you have no practice, definitely follow the rule of like just match it on the other side somehow. Like that's generally like a good way to do it. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Hopefully that helps. Perfect. Thanks.